So, this is the energy equation, and it is very customary to put it in a form which is proposed by the hydraulic engineers. What they do is they divide the entire equation by g, okay, the acceleration due to gravity, and what that would do is you would get a z here, a length scale, and in fact you will realize each of these terms refer to a length scale. So, divide the equation by g to get a length out of each term. So, if you do that, you would get the following: v square by 2g plus z plus p by rho g. This is at the outlet, and it is related to the same quantity at the inlet, v square by 2g plus z plus p by rho g at the inlet. So, O represents the outlet and I represents the inlet, minus Ws by g minus Wl by g. This quantity is known as the velocity head. So, each term is referred to as a head. This is the elevation head, for obvious reasons. So, I can fix a certain datum and then see what is the elevation of a certain point in the control volume at the outlet or at the inlet. And this here is the pressure head. Of course, we can talk about the total pressure and the static pressure. So, this is the static pressure. I will say something more about the different kinds of pressures in the flow, but for the time being we will just use the term static pressure. So, at the outlet and at the inlet, I have these three heads put together, and if I combine all of them, the sum of them corresponds to total head, which I actually refer to as HT. Okay. So, we could refer to this as HV, this of course we could refer to it as HZ, and this we could refer to as HP, the pressure head. And obviously then the total head becomes HV plus Hz plus H of P. Okay, so this is popularly referred to as the total head. So now your equation is rather simple. What we are saying is that H T at outlet is equal to H T at the inlet, okay, these two terms, minus H S minus H L, and this actually is the head loss due to viscous actions / heat transfer. Right. And this Hs is actually the head due to shaft work, and it is positive if it is the shaft work is done by the fluid in the CV. So, work done on the fluid is negative, work done by the fluid is positive. So, it is a very nice compact way of writing the energy equation in terms of the head. If you please recall, we had used a manometer in hydrostatics to figure out the height of the column which between tubes to determine the pressure head. So, we are using the similar kind of analogy to get some heights for different quantities. Okay. So, what it says is that at the exit, if my head is different than what it was at inlet, there could only be two reasons. A, either some head has been used to do certain work, so that is this term, or some of it is lost to overcome some viscous actions or maybe some heat transfer and so on. Okay. All right. So, even if the flow is not one dimensional at the inlet and exit, we can still use these equations as I said, but then we have to be a little careful in interpreting the various terms. I just wanted to make a remark about what if the flow is not steady in the true sense of word. Sometimes we have time periodic flows. For example, I look at the flow inside a turbine. Okay, so it is generating power and the flow is actually changing with time, but then it repeats itself. So, we could actually do a time average over a cycle, okay, in time, and still use the steady equations as an approximation. So, what we are saying is that really when we have derived the energy equation in this form, it is valid for a steady flow. But if we have a situation where maybe the flow is periodic and the time period is large, it is not changing at a very rapid pace, then we could time average it over a cycle and still use in an engineering sense the steady flow. So, that would be an approximation, that would not be exact, but if the flow is steady and blah 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 all these assumptions, then of course this is the exact equation. Great. So, now let us apply this to some situations to be able to understand this flow. So, the first example that I wish to do for you is flow from an orifice in a tank. So, this is the problem setup. So, there is a water tank which has an orifice here. Let us call this as area of the orifice, and it has water up to a certain height. So, let us call this as H. And I want to figure out what rate this tank discharges. Okay. So, this is the density of water and the area is, let us say, AT. Area of cross section of tank, and A naught is the area of cross section of the orifice. Okay. We are going to assume that A naught by AT is very small. So it's a small orifice compared to the diameter of the tank. So let me fix the coordinate system. So let's say this is the coordinate system. So it is the z equal to 0 is flush with the orifice. Okay. Let's choose a control volume. So I'll choose this control volume. Let me call this as section 1 and this as section 2. Okay. And I will apply the energy equation to this control volume. So let V1 is the speed of water at section 1, okay, here, and V2 is the speed of water at 2 over here. Clearly it's going to vary. Okay, so V1 is going to vary across the area of the tank, and V2 may also vary because of certain reasons at the orifice. But we will assume the flow to be one dimensional. The flow is one dimensional at 1 and 2. What that means is that V is constant across the free surface. So the entire free surface moves down with the same speed. Okay, there is no variation in the height of the column. Okay, there are no local variations. And similarly, V2 is constant across the area of the orifice. That may not be the case. We may have some effects because of viscosity. In fact, there will be a no slip condition here when you have a viscous flow, and we know the flow will stick to the walls of the tank, and therefore particles, fluid particles which are very close to the tank walls, they will not move with respect to the tank wall, but the ones which are away would gush down. So there would be definitely a change across the section 2, but we are ignoring that. We are assuming that it is a one dimensional flow. Okay. All right. Now let's do the mass balance. And before we do that, we can also assume that the flow is quasi-steady. So let's make a big assumption here that the flow is quasi-steady. What does this mean? Really speaking, the flow comes out through this orifice, and as you will see, this control volume, the mass inside the control volume changes. So it is going to be an unsteady flow. But we are assuming that the amount of flow that leaves the control volume is much smaller than the amount of flow, actually the amount of liquid inside it. So it's moving out at a fairly small rate, so that the rate of change of the height of this control volume can be negligible. Okay, so in that sense, things are not changing with time, they are changing in a very large time scale. So maybe if you wanted to empty the tank, it could take several hours, but we are talking about measurements maybe within a second or a couple of seconds or maybe a minute. So that's a quasi-steady in the sense that the rates are so small, the dH dt is small. So that's the steady assumption. If we do that, then we can apply mass balance between 1 and 2. So I could say that the fluid that crosses the section 1 and the rate at which it crosses section 2 should be identical, and that would mean that rho times AT, that is the area at 1, times the velocity at 1 should actually be equal to the rho or times the orifice area times the velocity at 2. So I could strike the densities out, and this would imply that V1, which is the velocity here, is actually A naught by A tank times V2. But A naught by AT is very small. That is what is given here. And therefore, we can assume that V1 is nearly 0. Okay, so compared to the velocity here, we will assume that this velocity is so small that it can be neglected. Okay. All right. So now we are going to apply the energy equation between the ports 1 and port 2. Port 1 is the inlet port and port 2 is the exit port for the control volume. So let us first write down the energy equation, and I have already given this to you. So V square by 2g plus z plus p by rho g, this at the exit or at the outlet is actually given as V square over 2g plus z plus p over rho g. This is at the inlet, and this would be minus Hs minus Hl. Okay, so this we have already seen. Now for this problem, this term is 0. There is no shaft work. And we are going to neglect all losses So we are going to assume that there is no viscous loss, there is no other loss that could take place, and therefore the energy of the mechanical energy at the outlet, which actually is port 2 which has been marked, and the inlet is port 1. So therefore this quantity is actually V2 squared, this is P2, this is Z2, this is 1, 1 and 1. Okay. Now what can we see from the figure as far as these quantities are concerned? If you recall, we have already shown that the area of the tank is very large, therefore V1 is negligible. So this quantity is very small, so we are going to neglect it. What about Z1? Z1 is actually the height of the surface from the datum, so that is actually h. And P1 is the atmospheric pressure. Okay. Similarly, V2 I already know is the uniform speed across the orifice. Z2 is 0, that is the datum, and P2 I already know is the atmospheric pressure. So therefore you can now work out this equation, and you will be able to see that V2 square by 2g is actually equal to h. Okay, so that's what this equation gives us. And this implies that V2, which actually is equal to VO the velocity at the orifice is simply 2gh. Okay. So, it appears as if I just threw a pebble at a certain height, and then when it reached, when it collected some, when it lost some height. So, if I threw a pebble from here, then by the time it came here and there are no losses, then the velocity that it would have if it was released from rest, that is what is the velocity that we are getting for this fluid particle. That is of course without losses. Very nice. So, we could find out what is the flow rate. So, Q dot is the flow rate, or you could also say it is the discharge rate. And that would be given as simply the area at the orifice times square root of 2g.